All right, now for some analysis. John, let me ask you what you think about this escalation that we've been seeing, the war of words. It was interesting to note on the debate stage, Marco Rubio taking a much different tack. Now, though, it seems like a back and forth in a schoolyard.
At best.
At best.
At best, right?
Yeah.
Life is like high school, and,
Right.
and apparently presidential campaigns are too.
Right.
Look, I've been talking to some Republicans, and what I'm hearing is that they think this is the last-ditch effort by Rubio. He doesn't have much to lose, and if he's lucky, he'll get under Donald Trump's skin, and Donald Trump will start to get a little intemperate. And the argument Rubio's making that's like, I guess, a little more substantive is that Donald Trump shouldn't be trusted with nuclear codes. So if he can get him to blow up and look intemperate while he's saying he shouldn't be trusted with the nuclear codes, maybe he can start to chip away at Donald Trump. It's a bank shot.
Yeah. I mean, but what's intemperate for Donald Trump? You know what I mean? Like, what is the definition of that?
Well, I think if his, if his head blew up or something, there'd be like
because he said some
steam came out of his ears.
Right.
No, I'm talking about angry and temperate rather than.
I see.
Most of the things when he's cutting other people down, when he's knocking them, there's ridicule in that. There's
it's like a twinkle in his eye.
Yeah,
almost.
a little humor. He looks like he's having fun knocking them around.
Right.
But if he got really angry,
I see.
That might be something that Rubio could carry against him. But it's a long shot,
Yeah.
and again, people are telling me they think he has nothing to lose, so why not try it?
Yeah, Steve, what do you think about that? I mean, I guess the notion is that Donald Trump has been sort of the happy warrior up until this point, and maybe with these concerted attacks, continued attacks, that he'll give and he'll be angry, and that'll be enough to turn off some voters.
Yeah, I think, Rubio has a lot of ground to make up between him and Donald Trump, and I just don't know that that insulting his way forward is the way to really do it. I think he's got to make an argument that he's a better choice, and he's got to try to peel off some of the support that that's going to Trump, which is, people who are angry at how Washington's working, and they want somebody to go in there and shake things up. And I think going in there and talking about spray tans and hair, which is hilarious. I mean, I'm enjoying it as somebody who likes to watch stand-up comedy once in a while, but I just don't know how that gets you 10 points if you're down to Donald Trump in all these states.
I'm told we have that bite. Let's go ahead and play it.
It is time to open our eyes. It is time to open our eyes. We cannot allow a con artist to get access to the nuclear codes of the United States of America. It's a big fraud, and it's time to open our eyes, and we will in the days and weeks to come. I'm confident of it. Now, what happens when you attack Donald? He goes on Twitter. You guys want to have a little fun today? All right. All right. Well, last night he actually was pretty calm after I punched him around a little bit. I think he's learning how to spell, I guess somebody said here. But he's flying around on Air Force One and tweeting. So here's the one tweet he put out. He put out a picture of me having makeup put on me at the debate, which is amazing to me that a guy with the worst spray tan in America is attacking me for putting on makeup. Donald Trump likes to sue people. He should sue whoever did that to his face with that.
All right, let's go to our Nancy Cortez, who is in Columbia, South Carolina at Clinton campaign headquarters there. Nancy, I imagine the Democrats and Hillary Clinton and her campaign in particular are watching all of this stuff happening on the Republican side very, very closely.
They're definitely getting some good ideas for one-liners from Marco Rubio. You can almost see them at campaign headquarters in Brooklyn going, ooh, that's a good one. Oh, yeah, let's remember that for a couple months from now. And you have to wonder where Marco Rubio would be in the polls today if he had started using some of those attack lines a few months ago instead of going after Ted Cruz. And not just, the sort of easy one-liners about hair and spray tans, but as he did in the debate, really putting Donald Trump's record front and center, pointing out how many times he's been sued, pointing out, essentially the fraud that was Trump University, pointing out that his healthcare plan consists entirely of getting rid of the lines between the states, as Marco Rubio put it, and encouraging more competition. And I think that the Clinton campaign realizes, and they're really grappling with, the reality that if this is a Clinton-Trump race, it is going to look nothing like the race that they planned to run or wanted to run, and there's no use crying over spilled milk. You can't take the high ground indefinitely against a candidate like Trump who's going to go for the jugular. popular. Even if Hillary Clinton, let's say, ends up being viewed more favorably than Donald Trump, even if she ends up being viewed more honest and trustworthy, if he drags her reputation through the mud, and you know he's going to be talking every day about Benghazi, about the emails, about things that other candidates wouldn't talk about, like her husband's infidelities, she is going to have to come up with a plan to hit back at him. And maybe it is this approach that Rubio's taking, where he kind of does it with a smile, where he's sort of saying, get a load of this guy. Can you believe this guy? He's a con artist. He's a joke. And sort of, ends up making Donald Trump look a little small, which no Republican candidate has really been doing. For the most part, they were afraid to take him on. They decided to take on each other instead. And once they did decide to really go after him, candidates like Jeb Bush and now Marco Rubio, the consensus is that it's probably too late.
Are they worried at all, the Hillary Clinton campaign, you think, Nancy, about, though, the appeal in some parts of the electorate, not just the Republican side, but people who are looking at Donald Trump as possibly the person who might be able to shake things up? Obviously, Bernie Sanders is trying to be in that outsider lane as well, but there is some polling to suggest that Donald Trump does have some appeal in blue states.
Mm-hmm. They're absolutely worried about that, especially because every conventional assumption about a ceiling on Donald Trump's popularity has been incorrect. I mean, there's a new poll out today that shows him dominating in Massachusetts. This is a very moderate state in the Northeast that Democrats intend to win in November, and here's Donald Trump leading the Republican pack by some 20 or 30 points. And so they're absolutely worried that while you might assume that a candidate like Trump, who has very high unfavorable ratings right now among Democrats and independents, they know that he's going to change his tune after he wins the Republican nomination. If he does, he'll start sounding much more moderate. He'll say that he wants to make deals between the two sides and that he's a businessman and he can cut those deals, and they are very worried about it. There is no playbook for running a campaign against Donald Trump. We've seen these Republican candidates flail about as they try to do it. Hillary Clinton, when she has once or twice gone after Trump, called him a sexist, that didn't work out very well for her. He really hit back hard. And so I think the Clinton campaign, assuming that they do, continue to do well, and assuming that she continues to look more and more like the Democratic nominee, they're going to have some very difficult decisions about how they wage this fight. It is not her sort of natural inclination to get down in the mud with another candidate and sort of thrash it out. But you're going to have to do some of that if you're going up against a candidate like Donald Trump.
Yeah, Linda, I'm curious, your thoughts on that, what Nancy just laid out, and the difficulty of taking on a candidate like Donald Trump.
I think it's really important to make the distinction between going on offense and being on attack without being really nasty. I don't think that you can ever win if you try to be somebody that you're absolutely not. And, I'm stating the obvious, but if we get to the general election, the electorate is very, very different. Right now, you're dealing with the party diehards on both sides, where some of this stuff may be playing really well. But I don't see a general election where Hillary Clinton is literally slinging mud.
So Liz, even if, so we heard just what Linda said, we heard what Nancy spelled out there, but if Hillary Clinton gets hit, and let's say, in the middle of a general election there is some mud being slung her way, it seems to me that she is also a fighter.
Absolutely, and she's been through a lot of attacks before. I am confident that she can take him on. What's interesting is a couple of months ago, I actually had a conversation at Clinton HQ, and I floated the idea of Donald Trump and was like, would you at that time, we actually thought he would help Democrats because he was so wacky that we were like, great. And then they told me, no, we'd prefer it be a real candidate that would be like a real challenge for her. Donald Trump would be too easy. And now I think that narrative has probably changed, and hopefully they won't make the same mistakes that Republicans have made, which is wait, and what Marco Rubio is doing now, which comes off as desperate and sort of too late. But hopefully they actually have a plan and go on the offense before he goes off his rails and attacks her in a way that actually jeopardizes her campaign.
Your thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, I don't have a good strategy for somebody to deal with Donald Trump. I think it's confounded the best political professionals out there. I do think what you're going to see from Hillary Clinton likely is a whole lot of super PAC money that goes into beating the living hell out of Donald Trump. Now I'm using words I shouldn't be using on television. The culture's
We're
like
okay.
So, I think you're seeing a lot of super PAC money really flooding in to crush him on that end or try to. And I think what you're going to hear her talk about is substance a lot. I think what you're going to hear her talk about is the things she was talking about tonight. She's talking about Flint, Michigan. She's talking about gun violence. I think she's going to talk about issues and contrast that with, from what we've seen so far, the lack of substance on Donald Trump's part. He's done a very good job of insulting people, talking in big, bold, bright colors. But I think she'll want to make that contrast herself and then let her friends come in and dump on him and fight with him.
Let's talk about the Republicans. Steve, so apparently now Ted Cruz, in addition to Marco Rubio today, has come out and he has released his tax returns. Of course, we heard this as a double-pronged attack during the debate against Donald Trump. What do you think that does? Does that increase the pressure on Donald Trump? You think this is a vulnerable point for him, not releasing tax returns?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's the tax return issue, as John said earlier, is much of a problem for Trump. I think what happens, though, is the longer this goes and the drip, drip, drip of it, and the longer he goes without releasing them, then people will start to raise questions about what is he trying to hide, right? So now you have Rubio who put his out, although Rubio didn't put out much more than just the summary. So he has questions to answer about where's the rest of your tax returns. Cruz is going to put his out. And so the longer Trump goes without doing this, people are going to start raising questions. Well, is he trying to hide his net worth? Is he doing some shady things in terms of his taxes? Is he not giving to charities, or is he giving to the wrong charities? Or, people are just going to raise all sorts of questions about what is in those tax returns. And until he puts them out, I think that's just not a good storyline you want to keep perpetuating. You just want to get him out there and answer questions and keep moving. So again, it's interesting because this is really the first sort of drip, drip, drip storyline that Trump's had to deal with. And it'll be interesting to see how he handles this. It reminds me a little bit of how he sort of went after Obama on the birth certificate, whereas if Obama just released his birth certificate right away, you probably wouldn't have had months and months of people talking about it. Yet it just kept going and people were wondering, well, what is Obama trying to hide? And then he eventually released it. It's a similar situation here with Trump. Again, it might not be what's in the actual tax returns. It might be just if this drags on, people just wondering what's in them. That might be more of a problem for him.
All right, Nancy, you're there, Clinton campaign headquarters. Let me just ask you, what is next for Hillary Clinton?
Well, she's going to be campaigning in Tennessee and Arkansas tomorrow. She's going to be campaigning in Virginia on Monday. She's going to be trying to hit as many of those Super Tuesday states as possible, but she's really kind of taking a Southern strategy. When you've got 11 states voting 3 days from now, you've got to make some tough choices about where you're going to go and where you're not going to go, and she's really only going to the Southern states. There are a bunch of them. You've also got Alabama. She's kind of snuck out to Alabama today from South Carolina to campaign there really quickly and then headed right back here for the victory party tonight. But she is not going to Massachusetts. She is not going to Vermont. She is not going to Minnesota. She is not going to Colorado. She is going to focus on that band of southern states that votes on Super Tuesday, very delegate-rich states. Virginia and Georgia both have about 112 delegates. Texas is sort of the big kahuna. They've got about 255 delegates there. So that is where she is really focusing her time. Bill Clinton, one of her top weapons, he's going to be spending a lot of time in Texas, also rallying supporters. And then, they're looking forward to, a host of large states coming up. Michigan, Florida. We actually have 2 more Democratic debates. Remember, there were only supposed to be 6 debates, but then Bernie Sanders had been pushing for more debates, and finally we did get 3 more. We had that one in New Hampshire, and now we've got another couple debates coming coming up. We've got one in Michigan in the weeks to come and another one in Florida. So these candidates still are going to be on the same stage together, battling it out, even if Hillary Clinton does start to pull ahead in the delegate count after Super Tuesday.
All right, our Nancy Cortez reporting from the campaign trail in Columbia, South Carolina. Nancy, thank you so much.
You're welcome.